Shown at the beginning of the film, we see a group of tribals hunting in a dense forest. With great effort, they drive a wild boar into a trap they've set. Afterwards, they all share and eat its meat. Suddenly, our hero hears an unfamiliar sound. The hero and his companions take up their weapons. By then, the strangers had handed over the fish they had to the hero and his group. There were many of them, including children, elders, and women. We just need permission to walk through. They've encroached upon our land. We need to find a new one. Saying this, the tribe continues on its journey. This incident causes a small amount of suspicion and fear in our hero. Although he tells his father about it, his father doesn't take the matter seriously. He also advises, you shouldn't tell anyone about this incident, as it could cause fear in others. Afterwards, they return to their village with the wild boar meat they hunted. So, our hero goes home with his child. His wife was heavily pregnant. Even when everyone was celebrating at night, the incident that happened in the forest bothered his mind. That night, he went to bed hearing dogs barking unusually. He dreams of the tribal man he saw in the forest the day before. It was a mysterious dream where the man was standing with his stomach ripped open, holding his own heart in his hand. He suddenly wakes up to a horrifying sight. Another tribe is setting fire to their village. Realizing the danger, he wakes up his pregnant wife and runs out with his son. He starts to safely lower his wife and son into a nearby dry well. At this time, a huge riot was taking place in the village. They mercilessly killed everyone who resisted. The rest were being taken captive. Suddenly, one of the attackers rushes towards the hero. Fortunately, his wife and child had already reached the bottom. He jumps on the attacker and uses the attacker's own weapon to kill him. To allow his wife and child to climb back up, he ties the forest vine he used to lower them to a cliff branch. By then, the attackers had torched the entire village. Although the tribals fight, the attackers easily overpower them. At this time, the hero, who has run to the scene, tries to kill an attacker, but the military commander who arrives from behind captures the hero. The enraged attacker tries to kill the hero, but the commander stops him, saying, I want him alive. At this moment, the hero talks to his father, and the attacker, recognizing his father, mercilessly kills him out of anger towards the hero. Afterwards, after knocking the hero down, they tie all the elders of the village to long bamboo poles. The hero's friend was also among them. At this time, the hero was constantly looking towards the dry well, where he had hidden his wife. An attacker who became suspicious, goes directly to the dry well. He sees the forest vine that the hero had tied to escape. He then takes a rock and throws it into the well, and hearing their cries, he realizes that someone is hiding. To prevent them from escaping, he cuts the vine. Afterwards, they take the tribals as slaves and return to their own land. Through the forest stream that surrounded the village, they very mercilessly took the tribals away. The attackers did not want children. So they left them in the village and returned. Their journey was through a very dangerous path. Suddenly, one person's foot slips, and both the hero and that person are about to fall into the valley. But the hero's friend, with great effort, pulls both of them back up. The attacker who had a grudge against the hero pushes a tired person from the group into the gorge. But the commander gets angry at him, saying, don't do this again, I want everyone alive. Night falls. At this time, the hero's wife and child were exhausted in the dry well with no one to help. The commander's son was also with them on this mission. The commander hands his knife to his son, saying, you learn everything by watching. But at this very moment, our hero was praying for it not to rain. He knew that if it did, the well would fill with water and his wife and child would die. On their journey forward, they had to overcome many difficult situations. They narrowly escaped a great danger by sheer luck. Afterwards, on their way, they came across a sick mother and child. They heartlessly pushed away the child who was begging for help. It was at this moment that the child sees our hero. Afterwards, she makes a prophecy, the sun will go dark. And one of you will rise from the underworld and kill all of you. They were stunned for a moment, but not taking the incident seriously, they continued their journey. The attackers belonged to a more ancient society. They used slaves to do heavy work in the quarry. Finally, they reached the attacker's land. After arriving there, the women of the land began to paint the bodies of the young men with a blue color, as if it were some ritual. They began to auction off all the tribal young women they had captured for a good price. They let go of an old woman whom no one wanted in the auction. The old woman was looking at her son with a very pathetic expression. Afterwards, they were taken through a walled passage. The images painted there of men and animals being killed doubled their fear. After that, they were taken to a sacrificial altar with many steps. The whole society, including the king and queen and the general public, were there as spectators, cheering. At that time, when they saw the heads of the dead stuck on spears, the fear of the hero and his companions increased. They were being dragged brutally up the many steps of the stage. There, they were performing rituals for the earth goddess, wearing special masks. The commander spilled his blood on the ground to begin the rituals. Afterwards, he brought a young man from the tribal group, laid him on the altar, and ripped his heart out while he was still alive. He then held it up to the crowd. The people roared. Afterwards, his heart was roasted and all the magical rituals were performed. Then his head was cut off and rolled down towards the crowd. People competed to catch it. Afterwards, his body was also rolled down in the same way. Many bodies of people who had been killed in this way were piled up there. Afterwards, another person was killed in a similar manner. Next, it was our hero's turn. He thought of his wife waiting for him in the dry well. His friend bid him farewell with great sadness. "My time to leave this world hasn't come yet," he replied to his friend. He too was laid on the altar, and the knife was raised to kill him. Fortunately, at that moment, a solar eclipse occurred. The entire area was in darkness for a while. When the light returned, the sorcerer informed the king that the earth goddess had been merciful, and that no more sacrifices were needed. Thus, the hero narrowly escaped from the sacrificial ground. When the commander asked what should be done with them now, the sorcerer replied to kill them. Afterwards, they were all lined up in a field. The attackers had laid out various types of weapons there. The commander chose his own son to be the finisher at the end of the field. So they untied the ropes of the two of them and instructed them to escape. At this time, the attackers had taken up various weapons. They began attacking them from behind as they ran to escape. In the powerful attack, both of them fell to the ground, barely alive. When one of them tried to get up again, the commander's son, who was the finisher, hit him on the head and killed him. Then they chose the hero and another young man to run. But the two of them ran in a crooked and specific manner. Because of this, it was difficult for the attackers to focus on them. None of the weapons they shot hit their target. Afterwards, an arrow pierces through the mouth of the hero's companion, and he dies. At this time, the commander shoots an arrow and fells the hero, who is about to reach the end of the field. The commander's son rushes towards him as he tries to get up. But at that moment, his friend, who was half dead, comes to his rescue. The enraged commander's son begins to beat his friend to death. In this time, the hero had pulled out the arrowhead that was stuck in his body. Not knowing this, the hero kills the finisher who came to kill him with that weapon. Thus, the commander's son falls dead there. The hero slowly gets up and escapes into the bushes. Seeing his son die in front of his eyes infuriated the commander. They chase after the hero. But by then, he had reached a place where many headless bodies were piled up. He somehow escapes from there and runs into the forest. The attackers were right behind him. Exhausted from running, he climbs up a big tree and hides. But even then, blood was oozing from his wound where the arrow had hit. The enemies started searching the whole area. But unfortunately, his blood dripped down and fell on one of the attackers. They saw this bloodstain after going a little further in search of the hero. So they concluded that he must be hiding in a tree and started walking back. However, it was at this time that the hero sees a black panther climbing the tree. He starts running for his life. It is at this moment that an attacker sees the running hero and rushes towards him. Fortunately, the black panther that was following them jumps on the attacker. In a moment, the panther kills the attacker. The others who followed them also kill the panther. The fact that things were happening, just as the little girl had prophesied, made the people in the group anxious. At this time, the hero had started running, tying up his wounds with the bark of a medicinal tree from the forest. He kept running until nightfall. Afterwards, he rested behind a tree there. At this time, the attackers were still searching for him with torches. So morning came. He started running again. In the meantime, while looking at a mark the hero had made, another one of the attackers dies from a snake bite that was there. An arrow suddenly sticks in front of the hero who was running at high speed through the forest. When he turns back, he sees the attackers behind him. He skillfully dodges their group attack. He ran and reached a waterfall. The attackers are behind him. If he doesn't jump, death is certain. He takes a leap of faith and jumps into the river. Fortunately, he is saved and swims to the shore. "I am a hunter. This is my forest. Come on, if you dare," the hero challenges the commander. The commander, who was angry, immediately stabs and kills the companion who said, "We can't cross this," like he did. Then, he pushes the corpse into the river. The others who were with him are forced to jump. While some are saved, others die by hitting their heads on the rocks. At this time, the hero who had run into the forest falls into a mud pit. By then, the remaining attackers had all swum to the shore. Afterwards, the hero somehow gets out of the mud pit. This was the incident that the sick child had predicted earlier. It is at this moment that the hero's attention is drawn to a beehive. He takes it and throws it at the attackers. While the stung attackers are writhing in pain, he runs away. Afterwards, he collects thorns from a plant, and injects poison from a poisonous frog into them. He lies in wait and, with the help of a bamboo stick, injects it and fells one more attacker. Another attacker comes running when he sees this, but he dodges and takes a weapon that was lying on the ground and kills him as well. But by then, to his disappointment, it had started to rain. With all his might, he then ran towards the dry well. Although he saw his wife for a moment, the attacker's arrows had already reached him. He started running again, but he ended up in front of the commander. An arrow from the commander sticks in his chest, but fortunately, it was not deep. He pulled it out and stood there. The enraged commander with a knife rushes towards him. Suddenly, he gets caught in the trap set for wild boars. The hero stood there to give him to the trap because he knew about it. So he also died. But by then, the remaining two attackers had arrived there. He started running again. But at this very moment, due to the rain, the water inside the dry well had risen to an alarming level. At this same time, the young woman goes into labor and gives birth to the child in the water. But even then, she was fighting for her life, holding both children up. The hero, tired from running, collapses on the riverbank. The two remaining attackers who followed are shocked by what they see. Modern men are coming here in ships. The hero escapes while they go towards the ship. When he goes to the dry well and looks, he sees his wife's face holding up her two children. So he saved them. On their way, his wife asks, "Should we go with them?" But he says, "The forest is better for us," and they go into the forest. The film ends with this scene. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and turn on notifications for watch more videos like this.